Hi, everyone. My name is Francesca Tripodi, and I'm going to talk a bit about what I do for research, who I am, and what I teach. But I want to start with what I teach because I'm really excited. This is my very first semester teaching at the School of Information and Library Science. And since I'm so new, I don't have many classes yet. But this semester, I'm teaching methods at the master's level. And even though it is remote, I think it's been pretty awesome so far. In the spring, I'll be teaching 581 again, as well as the capstone class for undergraduates, where this is a very cool class because students get to apply everything they've learned about the field of information and library science and apply it to a problem. And in my class in the spring, I planned for us to organize a concerted misinformation campaign. In the future, I hope to teach more classes on media manipulation, but for now, I'm just excited to be teaching methods because while some people might think of methods as maybe a little bit boring, I love it. And as a social scientist, I think it's probably one of the most important subjects that we can be teaching. And this leads me to my research interests. So one of the things I think is most important for new students to know about me is that I am an interdisciplinary scholar, which means I frame research questions through many different theoretical and methodological lenses. So although I conduct mixed methods research, I am passionate about ethnography. And I learned how to conduct ethnography from in this form of qualitative inquiry during my time at Georgetown University, where I conducted an ethnographic study of domestic workers in Costa Rica who were going through a Cisco Systems training certificate. Now, using my findings, I was able to write a report for Cisco Systems to talk to them about how their metrics for assessing the efficacy of the program didn't really match up to what the women were getting out of the program. I've also used ethnographic methods to study how alligator hunters in Louisiana's bayous think about their representation on the television series Swamp People. Whereas the television show frames the profession as a very male-only space, my time in the P rows revealed that women are an integral part of this process of living off the land, and that it's very much a familial enterprise. Now, for the last decade, I have used ethnography to expose what those in my field refer to as socio-technical vulnerabilities. Okay, socio-technical vulnerabilities sounds really complicated, but all it means is that I study how communities co-opt platforms and use technologies in ways that programmers did not anticipate or intend. And my research and my interest in socio-technical vulnerabilities began back in the good old days of this app called Yik Yak. Now, if you're a college student or a graduate student listening right now, you are definitely familiar with Yik Yak. But for those alumni out there that may be unfamiliar, Yik Yak is a now defunct smartphone application that facilitated anonymous participation based on geographic location. And the app was designed so that content that received a cumulative score of -5 would be automatically erased from the platform. And this algorithm was intended to curb cyberbullying. Okay, so instead of having to flag content and rely on content moderators, you could just get a small group of people to immediately downvote a post and it would automatically erase from the app. Now, my research revealed that it wasn't being used to curb cyberbullying, that instead students were actively silencing historically disenfranchised voices through downvoting. So instead of deleting comments like, "Oh my God, Jane is so ugly," they would delete posts about Black Lives Matter. And I applied this idea of algorithmic silencing and deletionism to Wikipedia so that I could examine how biographies are assessed and nominated for deletion. A lot of people don't know this, but around 100 articles a day are nominated for deletion on Wikipedia. And some of this is warranted. Wikipedia is actually a huge site for vandalism and exploitation. But I was really interested in about biographies for women specifically, especially those created at what people refer to as editathons. So editathons are basically just meetups where people try to improve the content of Wikipedia. And through ethnographic observations of editathons, I became aware that women were not considered as notable. Now, I combined this with statistical analysis of large data sets of articles for deletion, and I found that biographies about women are nearly twice as likely to be flagged as non-notable and nominated for deletion. Now, my current work investigates how Google and Wikipedia are gamed for political gains. And my research reveals the way knowledge and facts and truth are contested in the 21st century. We tend to think about Google as this window into the wider world, but my research reveals that search engines can act a lot more like mirrors, reflecting our own interests and our own biases back to us, and that our keywords and queries are shaped by our existing and often invisible ideological biases. So for example, let's take two search queries, one about quote unquote illegal aliens in North Carolina, and another about quote unquote undocumented workers' rights in North Carolina. These starting points are informed by two very different ways of seeing the world. And one will take the seeker to information designed to protect immigrant workers, while the other directs the seeker to immigration control and enforcement, an ICE fact sheet that boasts about the number of alien arrests in the Carolinas. The problem that I see with these different vantage points is that it creates the possibility for parallel internets to form. And when queries and keywords are largely invisible to wide swaths of the population, they are easily manipulable. Just last year, I had the opportunity to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee on this topic. And I explained how our social interactions shape the how, what, and when that we search. I urge senators to consider how our ideological dialects are manipulated by politicians through processes of keyword curation and strategic signaling. This experience of testifying before the Senate reveals a great deal about who I am as a person and a scholar, because I believe that an academic needs to use their voice and influence to reach as many ears as possible, not just those of us lucky enough to take college classes. And so in addition to my affiliation at SILS, I'm also a senior researcher at the Center for Information Technology and Public Life, what we refer to around here as CITAP. And unfortunately, most of you don't really know what CITAP is yet because our launch was scheduled to happen right as the pandemic was breaking out. But this is a super exciting place where communication scholars and information scientists and political scientists and sociologists and students and journalists and lawyers and entrepreneurs and all these people were coming together to try to shape public policy and engage in public discussions. I'm trying to think what else you need to know about me. I go by she, her pronouns, and I identify as a white cisgender woman. I grew up out west, and I never would have imagined that I would one day call myself an East Coaster, but I've lived close to the Atlantic for so long now, I think this is definitely where I call home. My undergraduate degree is in communication from the, my undergraduate degree is in communication from the University of Southern California. And I have a master's degree in communication, culture, and technology from Georgetown University. I have a master's and PhD in sociology from University of Virginia. And after I graduated from UVA, I did a postdoc at Data and Society, which is a super cool think tank based down in Manhattan. So that's all from me. I'm really bummed we're not doing this in person, but I'm looking forward to meeting you. So if my research or interests pique an interest, please do contact me via email, and I'm looking forward to getting together.